This week on the Andrew Yang podcast, if I were to run for president again as a Democrat, I'd probably start right now. I'd just be like, screw it, because you can see the void.
Well, you'd get more press than anyone else right now.
Yes.
Just announce right now.
I could. You never know. I'm always
Do
seconds
it.
away.
Do it.
It is my pleasure to welcome to the podcast for the very first time former White House correspondent for ABC News, also of Politico, now independent journalist who writes The Red Letter on Substack, and you can find her on YouTube, the brilliant Tara Palmeri. Welcome, Tara.
Thanks for having me, Andrew. It's great to be here.
Let me say first, I'm a fan of yours. I've been on your podcast. We've interacted throughout the last couple of campaigns. But now you are going independent, and would love to hear you share a bit about your decision making.
I think I've gone independent as a journalist for a lot of the same reasons why you're an independent politician.
Politically, yeah. Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a political choice per se, but the news media has become so politically aligned either with one party or another. And the truth is like, I've always seen myself as like an equal opportunity assassin as a reporter. Like, I'm not necessarily going after people, but you know what I mean? Like, if I have a good story and it's about, you know, someone that's a Democrat, or a good story about someone that's a Republican, or even an independent, like, I'm going to chase the story. I want to get down to the bottom of it. I want to get down to the truth. And I don't want to be guided by like, a higher level of bureaucracy inside of a newsroom, that is really leading the coverage in one direction or another. And it's often politically aligned, especially when you're a political journalist.
Yeah, no, it's true.
Yeah.
You are very independent minded. You call it like you see it, which is one reason I've always admired your work. So now, as an independent journalist, how do you go around gathering info?
Well, I do it the same way I've always done it, but this time I just don't have any editors above me or producers whispering in my ear. I call people like you. I call people, my sources too, that work in the White House.
Sometimes.
Yeah, they work in the White House. They work on the Hill. They work, they're elected officials. They're politicians. They're candidates. And I travel and I cover things and I do it all the same way. And I use my reporting and I have the same standards that I always had throughout my entire career. Like, I know when I feel comfortable publishing something, how many sources I need, the level of, backing, and like making sure that my reporting is solid, because like this is a community we build on trust, and you want to make sure that what you're delivering, that your readers, your listeners, your audience, wherever they are, they can trust you. That's all you have in this world, and that's your currency.
Well, the big political stories, and also I'm going to sort of spring on you this idea I had that I published in Newsweek a number of days ago. But the big political story is the special elections in Wisconsin and Florida. The Democrats overperformed, you'd say, in both. The Florida special elections, I think it was like a plus 30 Trump district.
Right.
So, it was never really in doubt. But I think the final margin was maybe half that or something along those lines.
Yeah, even less than half.
It was like plus 14 or something like that.
Plus 12 and plus 14. And one of those districts, Trump won by 37 points.
Yeah, so it was a very bad night bad result for Republicans, even though they won, though it was never really in doubt. I mean, I suppose like if you were some avid Democrat, you might have talked yourself into the fact that one of them was winnable, but most people the margin might be interesting, but the outcome's not. Wisconsin was more of like I think people imagined that could have gone either way. I always thought the Democrats were going to win because it's a special election. There's more intensity. The educated electorate is more likely to turn out as opposed to some of the pro-Trump voters in Wisconsin who will only vote when Trump's on the line, not some judge they've never heard of. Elon shows up in Wisconsin, which I saw as very much like a mixed bag.
Yeah.
And the Democrat won that race by, I want to say, something like 10 points.
It was incredible. I mean, this is Wisconsin. It's a battleground state. You don't win anything by 10 points. And you're right, it's a special election, so the base comes out. Like, these are base elections, right? But you had Elon Musk throwing, for I think $25 million. It ended up being $40 million spent on the Republican candidate, $50 million spent on the Democrat. This is the most money that has ever been spent on a judicial contest in history. This is insane. And it makes me think that every time Elon Musk gets involved in an election, it is just upping the cost of an election, right? Like, is this what it's going to cost for every single U.S. election, that it could be considered tight? So that's incredible to me, just that fact. But yeah, there was a shellacking. And, I spoke to some of my sources this morning that are close to Trump, and it's not great for them because they didn't really want to get entangled in this in the way that they did become entangled because of Elon Musk. Obviously, he's a proxy for Trump. Trump didn't go anywhere near it. But at the same time, like, Musk is a shield for Trump. But it's a loss for him, too. You didn't see him truthing about it in a way that was like, it was concerning. Because here's the other part of it. That this was like a mixed ballot. Like, this was a mixed group of voters. This wasn't just base voters, because the
ballot initiative?
There was a ballot initiative about voter ID, which is a very big Republican initiative, right? And they won by 20%. So there was a split in the voters. So a Democrat won by 10 points and a Republican issue won by 20%. That doesn't look good for Elon Musk if he's the face of this, or even Donald Trump if he's the proxy for him. So I don't think it was a great night for them in Wisconsin. I think that's way more consequential than anything you saw in Florida. And Florida, again, like, if you're slicing half of your, 30 points, 37 points lead in these kind of red, like deep red districts, one of them is on the border of Alabama, that's Matt Gaetz' seat, you got to be concerned about New York and New Jersey and California. These are the majority makers, weirdly, for California. So I'm not surprised now that they knew to pull Stefanik from the UN ambassador position, because she's from upstate New York. And who's to say what's going to happen?
I mean, I think if you were to run the midterms right now, the Democrats win pretty soundly. Oh, yeah. And, the question is how much that changes the calculus for the Republicans in Congress in terms of what they're going to pass, because I think there are 26 vulnerable something like that, 26 vulnerable members who are looking at this being like, they don't seem to be digging this Doge Elon chainsaw vibe, which they don't. The numbers show that Trump's agenda is unpopular, but Elon's agenda more unpopular, and so I think when Elon showed up in Wisconsin, it was a mistake. I think he should have sent money and not himself.
Right.
that sort of thing.
A quiet check, not a cheesehead and a rally and like holding off. What was he like, hoisting up checks, $1 million checks, which is actually pretty smart. I mean, you're going to get more publicity. He was right by giving out 2 $1 million checks to voters than actually buying ads.
Yeah. So one of the things that has made Elon is that he's like a 100%. Commitment. What's he called? Hardcore. That's what he is. He's hardcore. So the hardcore thing to do is show up and do the rally and have $1 million checks.
He wasn't always hardcore though, Andrew. Remember, he was very like Trump hesitant. He wasn't always on the Trump train. Oh no,
what I'm suggesting is that even when he's not, because I mean he endorsed me, 5 years ago, so he clearly hasn't been always like Trump, but he's been hardcore about whatever he decides is mission critical at the moment.
Right.
And I was on Fox the other day and I said, look, I think Elon's miscast in this role. I think him trying to cut agencies is really bad. It's a really bad fit. Right. If you need rockets to Mars, a great fit. Like if you need like a thoughtful approach to major bureaucracy, a really terrible fit. And on this one, I think the right move would have been, look, let me gently send some money into this Wisconsin race, but not personalize it, not anthropomorphize it, because Elon probably did increase the energy and turnout on his side, but he probably increased the energy and turnout on the other side, more. Is the feeling. I mean, there's some element of it that, because I had breakfast with someone today that's totally unrelated, but this is something I'm going to share, is that there aren't a lot of people in American life today who would go all in to the same degree. You know what I mean? Like if you look at like the billionaire set or whatnot, like not many of them are going to show up to the political event with cheesehead $1 million checks and the rest of it. It's just it's not customary behavior. So on one level, you say like, oh, well, at least he's committed. I mean, he's not, dilettanting this thing. But the people are turning on the Doge approach And I think you would see that in a special election in Virginia for sure. I mean, if that, like, I mean, not even special election like that, that's actually like regularly scheduled.
Yeah, right. 2025, we'll find out.
Yeah, so I think Republicans are going to take a beating in every turn through the midterms. And I think, the election, I mean, a lot can change obviously between now and then. But the question really is whether it changes the legislation that comes out before the midterms.
Yeah, I mean, he has a razor-thin majority, 2 to 3 seats in the House, and he wants to pass a massive tax cut reconciliation bill that includes border security, and it's supposed to be budget neutral.
Which is nuts.
Yeah,
like anyone looking at it being like, look, how are you going to cut taxes and make this thing budget neutral? And then even the numbers show it's like, oh, you probably have to cut the billions and billions from Medicaid, to make the number square.
Yeah, and the people of Wisconsin are very civically minded. And people are becoming increasingly more and more civically minded when they hear Elon Musk out there on Fox talking about cutting entitlements. I mean, this is not popular. And and people, members are probably say that's the only way to do it. I mean, Trump, when he passed the tax cuts the first time, I think he had 13 defections, including Elise Stefanik, by the way, because of state and local tax deductions. You know this, being a New Yorker.
Salt, yeah.
Yeah, and so, he promised those same members that he would make sure that salt was included. Deficit hawks are saying, we don't want that. And he can't lose those guys either. He has to make this bill too big to fail, that he can get everyone on board. But then how do you make it budget neutral? It seems like impossible. And they're nowhere near actually doing this. So, and every day Trump's popularity is going down, his favorables. He was at his honeymoon at his height, really, like a month ago.
Immediately. Like he broke that fabled 50% mark. And then it lasted, about a week or something like that.
Totally.
Join us for the second annual Hudson Valley Ideas Festival, where a diverse community of entrepreneurs, artists, thought leaders, and writers converge to tackle some of the most pressing issues of our time. Tickets available now at hudsonvalleyideas.org.
Thank you, listeners. Please make sure to like and subscribe. And if you have any questions, send them to mailbag@andrewyang.com, and we'll do our best to answer them. Thank you. So one thing that Democrats are crowing about is like, look, we won in these races, or at least we won in Wisconsin. I mean, they didn't win Florida. But the party's still trying to figure it out. So the most visible manifestation is the Fighting Oligarchy tour with Bernie and AOC, which drew thousands and thousands, including in Wisconsin. And then you have a host of other people making their case in different ways. So Gavin Newsom's podcasting. There are different presidential contenders doing different types of media appearances. And so my argument, and I don't know if you've seen me, but I'm going to make this argument to you and see what you think, is that the Democratic Party needs a direction as quickly as possible. Chuck Schumer has a mutiny on his hands because of the continuing resolution where he said, look, let me keep the government open. And then Dems like, oh, that's not fighting this administration. That's capitulating to them. And so he's taking all these knives in the back. He's like, hey, guys, like if I shut the government down, we'd be up Schitt's Creek right now, which I happen to agree with, by the way. Like, I think that if you'd shut the government down, Trump and Elon would have been like, yeah, be our guest. And then it would have gone into some very dark places pretty quickly. So I think Chuck was in a very, very unfortunate situation. He made a difficult choice. And then now, like, all the Dems on the left get to be like, oh, should have fought harder, even though it's like, oh, what was I really going to do? And so there's all this energy coming from the left. You have at least one challenge to an incumbent very conspicuously in Illinois. And then the incumbent said, I'm not even sure I'm going to run again. She happens to be 80 years old. So, also the numbers show that Democratic office holders are unpopular among their own voters.
Yeah.
And so more of them are having to show fight or passion. Cory's 24-hour filibuster
What
speech.
did you think of that?
So I know Cory. I like Cory. People know that Cory and I are friends. I admired it. because standing anywhere in a suit for 24 hours is very, very difficult.
No diaper. He dehydrated, apparently. Didn't eat food for days.
Yeah, I mean,
He's hardcore. That's hardcore. To me, writing a check and going on a cheesehead is not as hardcore as standing up there for 25 hours.
Yeah, so it was objectively an impressive feat. Required a lot of personal commitment. And Cory is like a genuine, strong-willed person. I will say, so admire it, like it. I will say that I had a sinking feeling from it on two levels. Number one, I had this internal groan be like, oh no, now all the Dems are going to feel like they have to also do some kind of
much grandstanding,
performance of resistance or passion. And it's like, now that Cory set the bar crazy high, now other people are going to be like, what can I do?
Light myself on fire on the Capitol Hill steps.
It'll be like, at a minimum, it's going to be lots of performative social media videos, all the way up to like a hunger strike or something. They're going to be some. They're going to be some.
Don't give them any ideas, Andrew.
No. Cory, I mean, it's happening. But the other thing that I said to someone internally was, where the fuck was this in January of 2024 when Joe Biden canceled his own party's primary and was putting us all on a path to disaster?
Yeah.
It's like, where was the courage, where was the principle in the Democratic Party being like, hey guys, love Joe Biden, but this is a train wreck in the making and we have to make a move.
Yeah.
And so now you have them being, passionate and fighting like the bad guy in the form of Trump. It's like the real bad guy in this drama, in my opinion, was the inner circle of the Democratic Party that did not enable like a real passing of the torch in the Democratic Party. So those are the two things I thought is like, oh no, we're going to see a freaking, performance off over there. And number two is like, where was this 14 or 15 months ago when it could have made a real difference?
Yeah, it's like where they're supposedly on higher moral standing, right? But then we had this entire period of like, I would say, a consensual delusion among the Democratic Party that the person that they were running was up to task and could run for another term. And they were basically hiding the president from the people. And like you said, rearranging the primary calendar because they knew he couldn't even win a primary.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's really bad.
You don't have the moral standing anymore. So if you're grandstanding for hours, being as if you are on some higher moral standing than the Trump administration, I mean, Biden opened the door for Trump to do a lot of crazy things, like pardon Pete Hegseth, by the way, in case he ever does get tried, pre-pardon as Biden did. If he ever does get tried for the Alien and Sedition Act for sending out those war texts.
One of the darkest stats out of the election, Tara, in my opinion, was that voters who had democracy as their number one issue split 50-50 between Trump and Biden, because there was like a real case on the Republican side. It's like, look, these guys don't care about democracy. And what most people actually, meant by that is that there's like this bureaucracy and it's like stifling. But then you look at it and be like, also didn't have a primary, and then even when Kamala was anointed the nominee, didn't have a primary. And so it was tough for the Democrats to be like, we're pro-democracy, except we don't want anyone to have a say.
Yeah, except our party poobahs pick who gets to run, and you just have to eat your dog food, and you don't have a say. I 100% agree with you. I mean, we've talked about this as well. I think that there is a real anti-party movement happening right now.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's in the numbers, too. Mm-hmm. And that's one thing that irritates me somewhat about the Wisconsin outcome, which I'm for because I preferred the liberal judge to the conservative judge. I'll just say that. But it's that Democrats can slump into the like, oh, look, we're going to get power back because this other crew is screwing it up so badly that everyone's hating them. And then all we have to do is wait, and which is generally true in this two-party system. Yeah. I mean, it's one of the diseases where, like, because objectively, it's not like the Democrats have done anything that awesome, but between November and now, but like the pendulum is swinging back their way because the tariffs are unpopular, Doge is unpopular, and by the way, also I think this economy is like like on its last legs. I think the stock market is like clinging. So I think that
as a new business owner, I'm like, what?
you're gonna be all right, Tara.
Okay.
You're building up.
Yeah, every day, brick by brick.
Yeah, I mean, historically, great businesses get started in not so great economic times.
Okay,
FYI.
that's good to hear.
But so I happen to think that the Republican crew is going to screw things up to the point where the Democrats will be like, see, look, even though objectively the Democrats have failed us, themselves, the country, the party, like whatever. It's been a mess over there. Which brings me to my big idea. Natively right now, the Democrats are trying to figure out who's going to lead the party / be their presidential nominee in 2028. Just for fun, let's go through a partial list of who we think is going to run for the nomination.
Ooh, I love these games. This is so fun. Okay.
So let's just go back and forth. I'll just say.
I like to think, like, why don't we have an opposition leader in our country, like a shadow government, like they do everywhere else? Because I used to be a foreign correspondent based in Brussels, so I covered, parliaments and the UK and Europe. We're one of the few countries that doesn't always have a leader in the wings waiting, speaking for the party. Do you think that's a good thing or a bad thing?
Well, I think generally speaking, the parliamentary system would be an improvement. I think multi-member districts would be a massive improvement. I think a multi-party system would be a massive improvement. But right now, to your point, like who leads the Democratic Party? And it's a freaking mystery because like no one right now thinks, it's Chuck Schumer. No offense, Chuck, but like no one thinks it's you.
Yeah.
Like no,
or Hakeem, frankly.
Or no one really thinks it's Hakeem either.
Because of their communication skills.
Well, but part of it's also they're freaking, in blue corners of New York. And so it's like hard to be like, hey, like
they're both from New York.
The immune dudes
Coastal
in Brooklyn.
elites.
Yeah. The immune dudes from Brooklyn. Like that's like, I mean, again, like.
We love Brooklyn. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. And like.
Where Brooklyn at?
Yeah. So it's not knock, but like no one thinks Hakeem or Chuck are the leaders of the party. So the leader of the party is a void, a vacuum. And the person that's going to fill that vacuum is whoever emerges as their next nominee in 2028. Yeah. So the votes for that don't begin until 28, very end of January, probably be New Hampshire first, then South Carolina, Nevada,
we'll
Michigan.
See if they keep that calendar.
Yeah, so this is one of the things I'm going to want to talk about. So you have, let's call it, January, February 2028 first votes cast in that primary. I know this calendar well because, I lived it. So the major debates would logically take place summer of 27. Also logically, most people who are looking to run will not want to declare until after the midterms. In part because you don't want to be running like that entire time. You want to like get your, stuff together and ships in order. And so traditional timeline, people will start declaring after the midterms, probably beginning of 27. And then try and make the debates, however, Ken Martin and the gang set it up.
Yeah. Unless you're a governor running for re-election, like what Ron DeSantis did and kind of like blended them together.
You mean go a little bit later?
Well, he went a little earlier because when he ran for re-election as governor, he was raising money that eventually went on to be his money for his, election.
So that there could be an argument for some people going earlier, which I want to get into. But like a lot of right now, so the traditional timing would be this calendar I'm suggesting. And I'm going to say that this traditional calendar is a mistake for Democrats because it's going to leave them headless, leaderless, directionless from now until really, 27, 28. So you have almost a full 2 years before you're having a meaningful conversation about the new leader, the new direction of the party. And then there are a bunch of stealth candidates who are, just trying to keep their name out there, like stay kind of visible. But it's not a genuine exchange or conversation. It's just, like podcast appearance here or there. This podcast is sponsored by ExpressVPN. How did you choose which internet service provider to use? The sad thing is, most of us didn't have much of a choice because ISPs operate a lot like monopolies in the regions that they serve. They then use this monopoly position to take advantage of customers, and yes, they even sell your data, your activities to advertisers and big tech companies, and you don't see a dime. That's why I protect my internet surfing and devices with ExpressVPN. When you use ExpressVPN, it's like a magic portal to a perfectly safe and anonymous internet. And don't take my word for it. This is the #1 VPN service according to CNET. It's used by major companies all over the world. So stop handing over your personal data to ISPs and other tech companies who then mine your activity and sell off your information. Protect yourself with a VPN I trust to keep my privacy online. Visit expressvpn.com/yang. That's expressvpn.com/yang to get 3 extra months free. Go to expressvpn.com/yang right now to learn more. So again, let's go through the candidates who we think will run. We'll start with the almost definitely running, and then we'll have a little bit of fun. So I'm going to start us off.
Yeah.
Gavin Newsom, definitely running.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I don't know, though. He adds the whole coastal elite thing. Again,
that's not going to keep him from running, Tara.
No, absolutely he's going to run. But yeah, he's got the coastal elite thing. The baggage of the fires, to me, that's just bad governance and feels like a Katrina moment for someone in the sense that, there was no water to put out the biggest fire in history.
Shoot, it was Ezra Klein and Derek Thompson talking about how California is now the anti-advertisement for Democratic rule.
Yeah.
Not wrong, but I think you'd agree that Gavin's running and is just going to trust that he's going to overcome.
I think good governance, though, is going to be on the ballot after years of chaos.
Gavin's got some weaknesses. Don't get me wrong. So I say Gavin's running. Who do you think is running?
It's interesting. So Amy Parnes and Jonathan Allen have a new book out about the 2024 election. At the time, there were some people who wanted a primary, or at least a mini primary, after Joe Biden dropped out. And that was Nancy Pelosi and Barack Obama. And Barack Obama favored Gretchen Whitmer of Michigan, the governor there.
Very sensible.
Very sensible. I actually always thought she had a very interesting, vision.
People would ask me for the #1 draft picks in the 24 primary, and I said Gretchen Whitmer, Josh Shapiro. Then you have two of the 3 swing states. You probably win, and then you pile into Wisconsin. You win that, and then you win the whole thing. But that did not happen. So Gretchen's running, you think?
Oh yeah, I think so. I think she waited her turn. She made that known to Kamala Harris as well. But she's a formidable character. You know what I mean?
She'll be formidable. I agree.
Yeah. Coming from Michigan, that'll be unfortunately a part of our country that will most likely be hit by the tariffs. And she's had swing state legislature that was led by Republicans when she was the Democratic governor. She's got a compelling story. She was kidnapped almost.
Yeah.
There
was a joke that's really pretty true. But I think it was Bill Maher said that Gretchen Whitmer will have an advantage because she looks like every TV or movie president we've seen for the last 20 years.
She's a beautiful woman, you know what I mean?
But she looks like that president you'd see in whatever Netflix drama or whatnot.
Yeah.
Also, shout out to independent Mike Duggan, who's running for Gretchen's gubernatorial seat. Okay. He's running as an independent, 2-term mayor of Detroit. Mike's awesome, and so we'll be looking forward to having him on the podcast and hearing from him. Okay, so we've got 2 governors. I'll say Josh Shapiro's running.
Yeah, for sure.
Your turn.
Okay, do I comment on Josh or just add someone to the list? I think J.B. Pritzker is running, another governor from Illinois. He's very wealthy. He could probably fund his own campaign. He's a billionaire of the Hyatt,
Empire.
Yeah. So, he's a lot of people like his tone right now. He's someone who's kind of standing up to Trump through his own platform in the state house in Illinois.
Yeah.
And he's saying we got to take the fight to Washington. So, Trump apparently, though, according to another book that just came out by Alex Eisenstadt.
You get early access to books? Is that the jam?
I read books. I respect my journalistic friends, my former colleagues. I read those juicy tell-alls.
I get those books, too, and I do read them.
Yeah. So in Alex Eisenstadt's book, he was a longtime colleague of mine at Politico, and he writes that Trump actually really feared running against Gavin Newsom because he thought that he had the look, like with the hair, and he was slick.
Yeah. Trump's all about the TV off.
Exactly.
It's like, oh crap, this guy looks like a soap opera star.
Exactly. And so the soap opera star was on Fox News every day, like trolling.
He's a very talented communicator.
Yeah, he was trolling, the Republican Party during the primary, and then Trump lost respect for him when he actually debated Ron DeSantis one-on-one. He thought he should have done better than that. But Trump also was not actually threatened by J.B. Pritzker. He felt that he didn't look the part. I don't want to say exactly what Trump said because it was rude. It's always interesting to hear who Trump worries about running against, because
that is interesting.
I do think he has like a real understanding of voters. I mean, he beat he beat everyone in his party's primary despite the party leader's best attempts to keep him out.
Well, one of the tricks he uses that really is a lens into the Trump mind is that he watches TV appearances and debates with the sound off, so he can just see how people look.
Yeah.
And I think there's some insight there. It's like the words out of your mouth don't really matter so much. So J.B. Pritzker running. Another governor, Wes Moore of Maryland. I believe Wes will run, and Wes is someone I like and admire. Wes is a good man and has a real virility to him and energy and the rest of it. There was some social media video of him getting on the pads and like joining a Maryland football practice, that sort of thing. I mean, he's kind of a stud. So he's
Obama-esque.
He's going to run. He's got like a slightly different vibe than Obama. That Obama, was a constitutional law professor. Wes was like a badass military guy, like, kick down the doors. So it's a little different. But Wes is very inspirational and uplifting and handsome, and like some things I guess I threw those in as Obama comps. So Wes Moore is my number 5. Who else do you have?
Okay, I was just thinking, let's not forget the Senate, because breaking news, Cory Booker, 2028. I'd heard that earlier, even before his 25-hour filibuster. Yes, Cory, of course, is looking to run again. I don't know. I think, like, I've always thought he was like a really interesting guy. My mom used to work for him, full disclosure. She was a paralegal at his firm, Booker, Rabinowitz, Trank, Lebekin and Tully in New Jersey.
Wow.
Yeah, this was many years ago. I know. My mom, I remember when I was a child, my mom said, Cory's going to be the first black president. And she really believed in him. And obviously Obama beat him to that. But I think he's interesting, but I don't know. I mean, sometimes these stunts, I don't know how well they go over, especially in this time when I think people are really kind of like craving authenticity. Like, it might rile up a Democratic base, but you can't just win with the Democratic base.
He's a good, smart, sincere man. His message did not catch in 2020 because he and I would hang out in Iowa and in the field together. But I agree with you. I think he's running. Also running from the 2020 field, Pete Buttigieg just bypassed a Senate race that was very winnable for him.
Yeah.
So it seems pretty clear what he's going to be going for.
I've always been impressed by Pete. I really have. He's so articulate and he's like so nice and endearing. I just like him. I don't know how to explain it. Like, not like in a way where I'm like, I have to vote for him. I just think we'd be friends. Is that weird to say?
Pete, very smart. The best communicator in the party next to Gavin, in my opinion.
Right.
In terms of like stick him in a, like a cable newsroom and let him do his thing.
Right.
So he's going to have a lane, but it's clear he's running because, you don't turn down a winnable Senate race. I think he would have had a harder time in that Senate race than because he is very, very new to the state. I think some Michiganders might not have been as into it, but, he could have raised the money, probably could have won, but he's going to run for president instead.
Got it.
So that's 7.
I got another one.
Yeah, please.
So we're going to need 2 stages at this point, right? Are we on stage 2?
Oh, we're still with the later part of stage 1, but continue.
Okay. AOC.
I think AOC is going to end up running, yeah.
Yeah. What do you think about that?
Very, very clear energy lane. I think she's going to get pushed into it. I think she's going to end up running along with her kind of colleague over there, Ro Khanna, is almost certainly running.
You think so? Okay, yeah.
Yeah. I think Ro's running. He's been doing a lot. If you look at Ro's travel schedule, he hangs out an awful lot in Iowa, New Hampshire.
I did notice that. I'm like, what is Ro Khanna doing from Silicon Valley, flying to New Hampshire all the time? You're right.
South Carolina. I was in South Carolina in 24, and Roe was there. I mean, I actually could have, also there, Gavin Newsom. By the way, Dean Phillips, who was running at the time, went to Gavin Newsom and shook his hand and just looked at him and said, "You should be fucking running right now." And then Gavin just had this fixed grin on his face. So that was,
man.
Yeah, I mean, it's rough. I mean, I've publicly said, it's like, look, Gavin and the crew, like, you're missing your moment. Like, this is the time. The country needs you right now.
Yeah.
But, it's 28. So
Kamala Harris.
I don't think Kamala runs. Do you want to put that in there?
I don't know. I mean, I've been asked about it a lot. I think she'd like to think the idea that she could run. She does have name ID. I don't think she should run.
I will say, again, I mean, I was in a primary with her in 2020. I think it would be a mistake for her to run in this presidential primary, in part because of this list you and I have just assembled.
They're kind of an all-star list.
Yeah, and she underperformed relative to this list before, like back in 2020, when, if anything, she would have had like a level playing field. But like now, I think, I think she ends up running for governor of California and not, and not president. So do you want to put in another number 10? This is going to be
are we still on the first stage? Okay.
Yeah.
There has to be a phoenix that rises from the ashes that we don't know of, like Obama.
Oh, you're still talking about some other folks that I think are going to run from like, anyway, continue. Who do you think?
But I think there's someone that we're not even thinking of.
Andrew Yang. Yeah, no.
Yes. Okay. No, but who is it?
There's going to be someone that is not on our list that runs 100%.
Like, I don't think anyone saw Barack Obama coming. He came, from
first-term senator.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People don't. Is there anyone that you're like, oh, that's a talent that people haven't really noticed yet, or you think they're going to rise up?
I mean, I there's some people I like in that milieu, but you're talking about someone who might win in 26 and then immediately turn around and run, which is possible. I think the list keeps on going. I think Rahm Emanuel runs.
Oh, right. I almost forgot about that. Yeah. I think it's so hard, though, in this, as I like to say, attention economy to break through as a new voice, as a new person, because we have our media is so fragmented. It's not quite like when Obama came up and there was all this buzz and it was exciting. I think like you literally have to like flood the zone while Trump is flooding the zone while, it's just like, it seems like you have to do what Cory does to become known all of a sudden.
This podcast is sponsored by Helix Sleep. I have been a mattress guy ever since I could barely afford an above average mattress, because I thought, if you're going to invest in anything, you should invest in the thing that you spend a third of your life on. With Helix Sleep, I took a personalized sleep quiz, found I needed a Dawn firm mattress, and it has been a game changer, not just for me, but for the entire family, which is weird because my kids didn't take the quiz, they don't like tests, and yet they seek out our Helix Sleep mattress more than anything else in the house. Don't take my word for it. GQ, Wired. Can you imagine being someone who actually tests mattresses? What a job. Go to helixsleep.com/yang for the spring savings event. Go to helixsleep.com/yang for 20% off site-wide. That's helixsleep.com/yang for 20% off site-wide. helixsleep.com/yang. With Helix, better sleep starts now. Well, so this brings us to my big suggestion for the Democratic Party, which is I was like, you need to pull the nomination process forward and not wander the wilderness for the next 20 months and then wait for people to declare, in January 2027. It's like, what do you do between now and then? It's like, it's just going to be like, try and get attention here, try and do an interview there, like do fundraising meetings here. And so I had two big suggestions for the Democratic Party. See what you think. Number one is you should just start holding presidential forums in Wisconsin, Georgia, Pennsylvania, other important swing states, and be like, guys, anyone who wants to run for president, we're going to put you in front of voters, and then we're going to have a poll at the end of it. And if you were lazy, you would just have your party activists in a convention hall, which they do already for, various things. But if you were to get really aggressive, you would have a public facing vote, non-binding. It's essentially like a ghost primary. And I said you should even do it where people could vote on their smartphones using mobilevoting.org, show that you're actually evolving and advancing. You're going to get energy. And then you'd have a presidential forum in Pennsylvania, like, whoever's running. like we could host it, or frankly, some of our past network or employers might jump on it, because at this point, like, what the heck do you have to talk about if you're the Democratic Party or news networks? So if you had who shows up to these early forums, I mean, geez, man, some people would definitely come because it's like a tailor-made opportunity for you, and then you just get the ball rolling sooner. Pete would show up, and Pete doesn't have a job. Pete could just show up and start he's a great communicator, so he'd just be getting forum after forum in front of all these swing voters, and then try and now some people would look at it and be like, oh snap, I don't want to be going now. But in some cases, everyone knows you're running. Like, everyone knows that. And so the Democratic Party should be setting stages, literal and figurative, to try and accelerate the process so it can have a meaningful conversation about the direction the party is going to lead it, instead of just letting the void linger for an extra 20 months. So number one would be just start setting up forums and unearth the field. Number two, the dramatic thing they could do is actually try and move the primary calendar. And say there's nothing carved in stone that says you have to have the primary start in 28. Maybe we could start a little earlier, start doing things, because if you let this void go, in my opinion, you're just kind of pushing out the definition of the party.
Okay, I'm gonna push back on this for 1 second.
Please.
I do think it's a smart idea, but what if it just ends up becoming a slugfest, like a lot of these debates end up being, and it creates the impression that the Democrats are in disarray?
In my opinion, that's the vibe you get now. Because
That's fair. But it's on stage now a little bit more so, don't you think?
Well, at least then you get people being like, oh, I actually preferred Shapiro's message, or I actually, and part of it also is an introduction, because you and I are obviously kind of professionals. So if you ask me, about any of these figures, I have an opinion, sometimes because I met them, sometimes because I know them, or they text me, or whatever the hell.
Yeah.
But the average American still barely knows who Gretchen Whitmer is. And so if,
they probably know her from the Dorito thing.
Yeah, maybe they know her from the Dorito thing.
A viral moment, basically.
Yeah, or Wes Moore, who I think is going to be a real contender, but the average American might not know who Wes Moore is.
Yeah, I mean, he's the governor of Maryland. Why would they have to interact with him unless they lived in Maryland?
Yes, well,
why?
Yeah,
or they're watching the collapse of the bridge and they saw his face for 5 seconds on their TV.
Yeah, you could pick a figure, and they could use some airtime.
Then why not do an oligarchy tour then? Then why not just do your own oligarchy tour?
You mean a fighting oligarchy tour?
No. Isn't that what the? Isn't that
it's a fighting oligarchy tour?
Oh, the fighting oligarchy tour. No, I thought we should just round up all the oligarchs and go on a tour with them on their yachts. That would be fun.
Yeah.
No.
Well, I mean, Tim Walz is doing his own tour right now. Half these people.
Oh, wait, should we add him to the list?
Yeah, probably. Also, just speed round, add people to the list. I think Klobuchar runs.
Yes. Fetterman, I interviewed him, and he did not rule it out when I asked him.
Fetterman, probably yes. I think Chris Murphy at this point seems like he's angling for something. No, not feeling it.
I don't know.
I think when you start going in this direction, you start thinking, I should run. I'm blah, blah, blah,
throw my name in. By the way, the mayoral race in New York. You must be thinking to yourself, I should
get it
run.
every day, Tara. People come to me every day. You're running, and I'm just always looking at it, always thinking.
When's the latest? You can jump into the race.
I think that ship might have sailed by now. So we're at 14, but keep going. There are a couple of other people.
Marianne Williamson.
I'm not sure she is going to run this time.
Dean Phillips.
Dean, I don't know what Dean's going to do. But to your point, so the field in 2020 was about 23 candidates. That was the two stages you're talking about. I think we hit that number or more. You and I just named 14 that are, in my opinion,
Stacey Abrams,
almost certain to run. Stacey Abrams could run. That makes sense. There are even some names that I've missed just now. Jared Polis.
Oh, from Colorado.
Yeah. I think there's a real chance he runs.
Okay.
So I think you can get to 24 very, very quickly and straightforwardly.
Yeah.
And that there are going to be some outliers that you and I are not thinking of.
Rich person, Mark Cuban.
Well, so Mark's clearly evaluating. But another person who who had expressed some political inclination, like Matthew McConaughey. So
Yes.
So there could be different.
He has political advisors.
Yes. So there are going to be people that see the vacuum in the Democratic Party, though it is going to be, I mean, like you said, like that some of these people are actually talented and like
I think
accomplished.
all
and,
right
like,
could do pretty well.
Yeah, America's going to be all right. But so
that's a good campaign, actually.
It's
a good slogan. America's going to be all right.
He'd get votes, for sure.
He could be like Reagan.
And so,
but he's sort of Republican. He's moderate. Secretly.
Yeah, he's up the middle. And my project, along with folks like Cuban, is to try and create an alternative path. Right now, you and I are discussing the Democratic nomination process and the Democratic Party's calendar. And, I'm familiar with it. So I'm like, look, guys, you're just waiting too long. It's bad. You guys should just get the show on the road a little faster because your party otherwise seems like a scattered mess. And you can at least have a meaningful conversation and introduce this crew to the American people. Like you'd be like, look, we're going to start having presidential forums in the future of the country, the future of the party. And then, half a dozen people would show up day one. You'd have like made for media events. People would start doing it. You could start. I mean, if I were to run for president again as a Democrat, I'd probably start right now. I'd just be like, screw it, because you can see the void. And you said, why don't you?
Well, you'd get more press than anyone else right now.
Yes, and you just said, why not just do your own fighting oligarchy tour? So some of these people are doing their version of it.
Just announce right now.
I could. You never know. I'm always just seconds away.
Do it. We'll blow this show up.
Yes. So I'm trying to create the independent path, and I see it where I think that both parties are living on borrowed time, my opinion, that they're being held together by duct tape. Trump has transformed the Republican Party into some other weird, culty type thing where they're talking about a third term and like nonsense that has nothing to do with the Constitution. And, it's become a cult of personality. The Democratic Party has become this, inchoate bureaucratic mess that they failed the test, really. Like their test was, hey, can we have a real contest for our historically unpopular, historically old president? And then like, oh, can't do it. And then, and that's why they're underwater with everyone. And so I would urge them to pull up their nomination process and try and figure out who the next leader is going to be that's going to define the party. Because right now the Democratic Party, it's like, who's the leader? No one knows. But like if it becomes the party of Wes Moore or the party of Gretchen Whitmer, then people are like, okay, like that's the direction you're going to take. The problem is that they're going to wait too long to try and get there. Like these debates we're talking about with the two stages and everything are more than two years away at this point.
Right.
And I genuinely could crash that process anytime I wanted, I think, and like I could certainly pull better than, heck, we did it once as a total unknown, and this time I'd actually have some juice going in, though my project is trying to build like this new independent path that could include innovations like voting on your phone and an independent primary where like everyone actually gets to participate, which in my opinion is one of the big things missing from the Democratic Party or primary or the Republican primary. Because if you don't live in one of the first four states, you're pretty much like, I guess we're going with yeah, like because a party.
It is weird that we let a bunch of people from New Hampshire and Iowa and South Carolina decide who we all vote for.
Yeah.
You've spent a lot of time there. They're
nice
people,
I like all of those places, but the process, doesn't really make that much sense.
No, I don't know. I don't think they do that anywhere else in the world either.
Yeah, it's a weird process. It's anachronistic. It's unrepresentative, and it's dying for like a revamp or modernization. But neither party wants to do that because both parties prioritize their own control of the process over what people want. And you saw that again vividly with the Democrats, where they were like, "Hey, people nodded this Joe Biden thing. Yeah, nothing to see here. Like, shut up, and then let's just like, And I was in New Hampshire and South Carolina, like with a front row seat. Dean Phillips got 19% in New Hampshire. Would have been a lot higher if all the independents hadn't been voting for Nikki Haley against Trump that same night. Yeah. So there was like an appetite for a challenge, but the Democratic Party didn't have any desire to let that happen. So generally speaking, you think it's an interesting / good idea for the Democrats to get the show on the road earlier?
I do feel like there's a vacuum. The best way to, seal it off is to put something in there and to create something. So I'm still warming up to it.
It's new to you. I get it. I sprung it on you.
Yeah, you do kind of spring it on me. It's an interesting idea. I also thought, I know this is really weird, but I was like, you could also do AI debates based on all of their positions.
Oh my gosh.
Is that crazy?
It's not crazy at all in that, most of, so, oh, it's painful, is that, I did practice debates, and you'd have actors just pretending to be Bernie, pretending to be Elizabeth Warren, and you kind of know what everyone's going to say.
Yes.
Because we're all sort of predictable that way.
Yeah. That's a good lesson. Don't be predictable.
It's one reason why I think I was interesting.
Yeah, that's why you had all your fans, because they're like, you're keeping it real.
But now, I hate to say it, Tara, there's enough of me on record where if you just busted out AI me, it's yeah, it's pretty close. It's true.
Oh,
it really it hurts my heart. Have you made a New Year's resolution that's related to eating healthier, being a little bit more fit, losing a little bit of weight? Well, have I got great news for you. Factor meals can help you actually achieve that goal. Imagine fully prepared meals sent to you fresh. I'm good at a lot of things, I will confess, but I'm really crappy at cooking. And Factor makes it so that you can have a completely delicious, awesome meal in the comfort of your own home that's healthy, it's good for you. You know when you eat something and you know it's healthy? That's the experience with Factor. When I ordered it, the Nona's Bolognese, the mustard chicken, they hit the spot. They're quick, they're convenient, they get the job done, and then some. Eat smart with Factor. Get started at factormeals.com/factorpodcast and use code FACTORPODCAST to get 50% off your first box plus free shipping. That's code FACTORPODCAST at factormeals.com/factorpodcast to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. So Tara, you have your ear to the ground all the time. What else is an upcoming story that you're interested in or excited about?
Okay, well, I'm super interested in what's going on at the agencies, because I'm a big believer that people vote based on a feeling of governance and safety, and that when people chose Donald Trump over Joe Biden, when people chose Joe Biden over Donald Trump. During the during COVID, they were unhappy with how Donald Trump handled it. They were unhappy with the chaos.
Yeah, it wasn't
so
great.
They thought that Joe Biden was a safer pair of hands, even though the base of the party was not fired up about Joe Biden. Now, then 4 years later, vice versa. There was a feeling that Joe Biden was not leading the country in the right direction. The governance was off, the pullout of Afghanistan, inflation, the borders flooding. We need someone who can bring law and order. We need good governance. We bring back Trump. So it's just a cycle that happens, and then 2 years later, and this and
problem,
then yeah. So the party that can really nail down actually doing the job of governing and giving the people what they pay their taxes to get, that party usually wins, or there's just displeasure. Not necessarily wins. There's just so much displeasure with the party that they've elected that they have to choose the opposition party in the hopes that they will do the right thing and bring the country back on track, although it never happens. Goes back again. So I look at what's happening at Health and Human Services, FDA, and I think to myself, I don't have kids. I mean, I know you have kids, but I'm a human being. You're a human being. We think about the things that we put in our bodies all the time.
Well, yeah, one of the private exchanges you and I had a while ago, it's what is a suburban mom thinking? The suburban mom is not excited about the fact that the FDA is not, going to be able to do its thing.
Right. The suburban mom is thinking wait, how do I know that the, carrots don't have E. coli that I'm giving my kids, or that the formula isn't poisoned, or that the bird flu means that rampant bird flu means I can't afford eggs. They are the ones that actually regulate what we ingest, and not just us, our children, everyone. And so if we have another health crisis, another COVID, another, any sort of thing that happens all the time, we have these crises. Measles was popping up
it's kind of dark.
in Texas. This shouldn't be happening. And so if these sorts of crises keep happening, and they're within the Trump administration, not to mention tariffs. We haven't even talked about Liberation Day yet. But health, I think, comes first. Like, people always say that your most important thing in life is your health. If they mess that up, I think Democrats get another shot. Now, questions are Democrats going to F it up themselves, and then we end up back with Republicans? Probably again. But I look at the air traffic controllers, the shortage of air traffic controllers, the fact that DOJ wanted to cut more people from the Federal Aviation Administration. I look at actual government, and I'm like, if you guys mess this up, you're going to get a shellacking in 2026. It's going to be worse in 2028. And then this is just life. Like, we shouldn't have to think about these things, and we're thinking about things that we don't have to normally think about.
Yeah, that's not good for the incumbents when you have to think about things that you didn't think you'd have to, like measles or whatever it was.
Right.
That's not what voters want necessarily. We're like, oh, let me learn what new earlier vanquished disease that now I have to care about again.
Yeah, polio's coming back. Oh, no, tuberculosis. That's the one that's coming back. There was a story in Axios this morning that a bunch of the aides that were working at HHS, Health and Human Services under RFK, were told not to respond to inquiries about various diseases and various inquiries that were coming up. What? We need our comms department, the communications department of the FDA and the HHS. We need people communicating what the scientists are seeing and hearing and what we need to know. And they're saying don't respond. So the White House had to set up a separate press office to respond to the inquiries that the HHS was ignoring.
Wow.
This is incredible. And then I keep seeing pictures of RFK playing tennis with Djokovic. I'm like, what is going on here? And it looks like he's living the life of luxury. It just seems a little off to me.
Yeah, I mean, most HHS employees are wondering whether they still have a job.
A lot of them were fired yesterday.
Yeah.
But I don't necessarily disagree with all the things that he's doing, by the way, because I have lived in Europe. I was a foreign correspondent for Politico in Brussels, and I was much healthier there. Their regulations are way more strict, especially with food. Like, they don't call food organic. It's all organic. They don't put hormones in their food. Yeah. They didn't want to do a trade deal with us, that transatlantic deal that Obama was trying to push.
Because our food's messed up?
Yeah, they were like, you guys have chlorine chicken and your meat has hormones in it. And even just the skincare products, every time I go to Europe, I buy as many skincare products as possible because we only ban I think it was 90 ingredients from our skincare products. They ban 200. So they regulate way more. And we need more regulation. But it's going to cause the price of food to go up, and it's going to cause everything to go up.
I mean, I'm with you on those things where I was in Europe, and somehow the food just seemed better for you. It was it's like, wow, why do I feel this way?
It's not as pretty, though. When you go into a supermarket, the apples aren't as red and plump, and but it's not because it's not pumped up with all of these pesticides, and it's not there are no hormones, so it's not as beautiful, but it's better for you.
Yeah, it just all felt more nutritious. I think you're right that the incumbent will pay a price if we are stressed about things that you thought were taken care of. And I think the dynamic you described is the biggest problem, which is and this is Bill Maher again, but he was like, we just keep playing you lose, I lose, you lose, I lose, while the people are really doing the losing, where we're all like, what's going on? And you kind of wanted to rest somewhere in the middle.
Right, right. You're like, why do I have to vote for this bozo? Because that one didn't work out.
Yeah. And hopefully we can get off this particular roller coaster ride. Tara, very grateful to you. How can people best find you, keep up with you, and enjoy your work?
Thanks. Well, I hope you'll subscribe to my newsletter, The Red Letter, because that is where I write for Substack, and you can become a paid subscriber as I'm an independent journalist, and so I need that sort of support. But you can also find me on YouTube at Tara Palmeri. I post videos all week long. I try to just make politics more understandable and relatable. I think it should be a part of all of our lives. And and I'm, again, like you, I see both sides as flawed, and I think
no, you're a straight shooter.
Yeah, we have to hold them both to account, but we're in some really weird times right now, and honesty is the most important thing.
Well, you are a good journalist, my friend.
Thank you.
And the fact that you've hung up your own shingle takes a lot of confidence and principle in its own right. So certainly want to see you succeed.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I hope that there are people out there who don't want to just hear what they believe, repeated back to them, and are interested in like kind of independent journalism that makes them question their own beliefs and thoughts a little bit too.
And Tara's a well-sourced pro too, so you're getting the actual scoop.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thanks so much for having me on your show. And obviously, I'm gonna have to take this with me, right?
Oh yeah, serious.
So can you sign it?
Already done.
Okay, cool. Great. Thank you.
Look at that. So thoughtful. Thank you all.
Thanks, guys.
Tara.
Cheers.